Welcome to the Green Talk. I'm your host, Mizraim Mata, and today I have a very special guest with me, Angelique Robb, founder and owner of SYNKD, a platform that connects professionals across the landscaping and urban design sectors. Angelique, welcome to the Green Talk. How are you feeling today?
I am great. It's Friday and the sun's out and it's springtime. So favorite time of the year. So thanks for having me on, Mizraim.
No, it's a pleasure, Angelique. Good to see you again. We were just talking about your background and the industry and overall, and I did some homework and I was kind of impressed to see that you are engineering petroleum, and in petroleum, that's right?
That's correct. Yes, I graduated from LSU, Louisiana State, a long time ago.
Great. And how that happened? Engineering petroleum and now leading SYNKD and green industry. So tell us what happened between petroleum and landscaping now.
Well, so I graduated in petroleum engineering and I worked for quite a few companies. I always like to be kind of in operations. So I was often on the rigs, in charge of planning the wells and also implementing them and like the operational decision maker and main person on the job. And so it's very similar to landscape design and then monitoring it into construction and making sure that the plan stays true to what is actually executed. But I didn't know about landscape architecture when I was at LSU. And it's kind of ironic because they're well known for landscape architecture program. I graduated in engineering because everybody said I should be an engineer because I like math and science. And so I did that. But petroleum was kind of a unique kind of engineering in that you had to visualize what was happening downhole and underground, under the surface of the earth or under the seabed. And what I never really thought about is how that actually helps me in landscape design because I can visualize how to change things and then talk clients through what I'm seeing in my mind, that what I can visualize. And then it was very easy for me to sell them on a concept to do design work and then to do construction. But that's not really answering your question. I should get a bit more direct. Well, when I moved to Houston after graduating, I bought a house and I was watching these garden shows like transforming your landscaping, and they would design it and construct it on the program. And I was just really inspired. And I mean, this is at the start of email and all that. And so I took out my graph paper and I measured my garden, my landscape, my yard, I should say. And I did a design. And then I went to Home Depot and said, I need 25 4x4 posts. I need this many joists. I need this, and I built a 2-level deck with pergola. I did a patio and lots of planting, and I did it all myself, like start to finish. And it was like the best stress relief ever. After I worked as a drilling engineer all day long and I would work long hours, but then I would come home and go outside and look at how my plants had grown and sit out on my deck and out with my dog. And, really, it helped me get outside. And this was in Houston where it's hot almost all year round. And, sometimes you need something to pull you outside. I was just really inspired by that and how much it made me sit outside. And I also was very critical of my own work. And I was like, I could have made those cuts better. I needed to do that better. I needed to, maybe those joists should have been a little bit closer together because there's a little bit of movement in the deck and not, just all these things. So I was still working in the oil industry for some time. And then I applied for a temporary position in Scotland and moved over to Scotland. And what was exciting there, the weather was a lot colder, but, and wet all the time, but I still came back to the experience designing and building my own yard, hardscaping and softscaping, and how exciting that was. And then in Scotland, what I'd never been around because I've always lived in the southern US is tulips and daffodils and all these different plants, and also a harsh environment because it's colder all the time, but the landscape changed a lot more than I was used to in the South as well, because, a lot of things die back in the winter, go dormant, and, a lot more perennials and a lot more, different trees, different plants, and slippery pavements and all that stuff. So again, just different challenges. And I eventually said, okay, I'm going to stop thinking about this and progress it as a career. And while I was doing my engineering jobs, I did like a course for landscape designers out of London. I did that, and I traveled to London a few times to meet my professor. And then I started doing the odd project here and there, and then slowly started backing off of engineering until I was doing it 3 days a week, and I launched a design and build company for the other days a week. So I started that about 2007, 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's great.
That's okay.
And
well,
can you tell us about Sync? Like what is Sync? What's the purpose of it?
Yes. So, I'll start back in Scotland again. About 5 years into running my business, I started getting this publication in the mail called Pro Landscaper. And it really helped me, like as a business owner and a young business, and I'd never had my own business before. I was always out on sites. I was, talking to clients all the time, never enough time in the day or the week or the month to kind of stick your head up and go, okay, these are the products I'm using, but what are better products? Or who's doing things at a higher level? And who do I want to learn from? And I started getting this publication in the mail and was like, wow, this is awesome because it connects design, construction, maintenance, like a holistic view of outdoor design and construction and maintenance. And then they started having events and I started going to them. And it really, as a business owner, it helped me focus on doing things better. Fast forward, I have a Scottish husband and half Scottish, half Louisiana babies. And we decided to move to Louisiana, and we made the move in 2020. Oh, I'm getting mixed up. 2019. It must have been 2019, right before COVID. So COVID was December. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting my dates mixed up. And we moved to Louisiana, and the company in the UK, Pro Landscaper, asked me if we would launch their brand in the US. So, it's like I've never thought of having a publication or event or anything like that. So I spent the month of January 2020 in London learning how they ran their business with the view to launching that brand here in the US. I launched it just in the Southeast 2021, and almost right from the start, I got a lot of people. So the whole concept is that all these different silos or different groups in our industry, we're like a small percent of, like in the architecture arena, landscape architecture is like a certain percent of architecture. Outdoor construction is a percent of construction. Horticulture, there's breeding, there's growing and all this. But what a landscape business owner needs to know of the horticulture business is a subset of that. So you get the picture, like we're like a subset of lots of industries. And so the whole concept is that we have like a wider approach, like an umbrella to all of these different groups, so that the better ways of working, the better products, the better building methods, the better design, maintenance, everything is kind of brought to that top, to the holistic view. Well, by calling the name Pro Landscaper, I had a lot of landscape architects that would go, I'm not a landscaper. No, I don't want to be involved. I had deck builders saying, I'm not a landscaper. I had masonry guys saying, I'm not a landscaper. So I found that the word actually divided people more. And my whole point was to bring them all together. So after a year of using that brand just in the Southeast, we decided to stop rebrand and make it a weird word that nobody could, know what we were about unless they asked a question. And so, so thank you for asking the question. The idea is we want to synchronize the industry. We want everybody to be in step together. And by doing that, we bring the visibility to the industry up because we're connected. We're connecting all of us together. We're a lot stronger as an industry. And I felt like when you say landscape industry, it still leaves a lot of people out. Maybe
Sure.
not for everybody, but for enough of the industry and the public, because I even have friends here that I would say I'm in the landscape industry, and they thought I, took care of people's lawns. And that is one part of the landscape industry, but they didn't realize how much more it included. And I think the power of our industry is coming together. All these different groups that we all have the same goal. We want to deliver great product. We want to give great service, but sometimes we need help. Let's say you are a hardscaper and, there's often mature trees around. And your client wants a driveway and there's a mature tree very close to that space. Really, to do the best job for the client, for the tree, for the space, for you to do a good job, you really need to know a bit more about trees, even though you're a hardscaper. Those are the kind of linkages that I like to bring up as an example, because there's a lot more to constructing around trees than just isolating the part under the canopy. I learned recently that magnolia trees, their root area is 3.5 times the diameter of the canopy. So it goes, the roots are huge. So again, you can damage that tree and you won't know for a few years, maybe 10 years, by putting a driveway next to a magnolia tree or underneath a magnolia tree. Those are things that you don't know if you're only in the hardscape realm of our industry, because it's not being talked about. I want to talk about the things that are cross over the boundaries of different parts of our industry.
Yeah, that's right. So we can say pretty much that everything is about finding harmony between, all the people involved and the construction or the space, right? Landscaping, hardscape, all those fields. In your opinion, Angelique, what are some key principles or strategies that people can use to be successful in that a corporation or be a partnership, create a partnership between all these different angles of.
Good question. I don't know it all I don't know all the solutions, but the science is always improving the science, the technology, what we know is improving in every part of our industry all the time. So I believe a big part of solving these complex situations and problems is communication. And it's being open to learn, share with other companies and to learn from other companies. And then our whole industry, it's better for each business. If you share with this company and that company shares with you, you both progress. You both lift each other up. And the more of us that do that, it lifts the whole industry up. And then some of the things that we have notoriously had problems with, like maybe getting new people into our industry, become less of an issue. So I do believe, and this isn't across the board or anything, but I do believe that there are companies and professionals that are still very reluctant to share best practices or even something that we're almost too caught up in this, competition and not sharing of things, because every yard is different. Just because you say, I like to use this when I do this in South Carolina, that doesn't mean you're giving somebody in Texas a secret you're giving them options that they maybe need to consider. I mean, I think all of the jobs that we do are complicated because we have so much in soil differences. We have weather differences, have, people differences. We have equipment differences. I don't think we should be so caught up in competing because I think there's well enough work for everyone. I think we need to be more collaborative and communicative in our industry, and it will reap rewards in so many ways. So that was maybe a long answer for what you...
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, and this is what... It's funny because I never saw myself as being a media person. I'm even doing video clips and all this stuff. Like, I'm pretty introverted, and a lot of people don't believe me when I say that. But like, I've had to put myself out there more and more, and I'm comfortable with it because I'm so passionate about it. But I've always been big on communication and talking to people, and I love learning from people, and I love putting the dots together. And I guess that's maybe my engineering brain. I'm a problem solver, and it bugs me. I'm looking out my window, and like the neighbor's driveway has cracks in it, and they have some invasive shrubs growing up through their azaleas, and I want to go and fix it all. And it's kind of the same thing in the industry. Like, some of the things are so easy to fix, but it takes being vulnerable and saying, I don't know everything. Can you, Mr. Arborist or Miss Arborist, tell me about that tree because I don't understand if I can put a driveway this close to it. It's being that it's going to be more work to do that, but you'll do better work the more you know. So isn't that worth it for your business, for the trees, for the environment, for the client, to give good service? I think communication is so important, and I probably talk too much. So you need to tell me if I'm, but then it makes sense that I have a media company, maybe, because I talk a lot.
That's perfect.
I love hosting the events. So we've had Sync Live 3 times in 3 years. We've had it 3 times. So we have that. We have a podcast. We have webinars. We have content from our events that we publish, and we have our print and digital publication, which I think is a beautiful product. We do a high quality job of designing it. Hopefully interesting for people, even no matter if you've been in the industry for 1 year or 50 years, you find it interesting. That's our goal, is to always talk about people, businesses challenging the status quo and doing things better or differently and giving more options to the rest of the industry. So we write it for professionals, and everything we do is for the professional, not for the homeowner, not for, an HOA or anything. It's for landscape professionals or outdoor living professionals. And, we just hope that we can grow this and reach more people. And we have about 14,000 copies of the publication that go out each quarter. And we have about 30 to 35,000 professionals, at least that we know of. On social media, you can't always tell if they're professional, but about 30 to 35,000 people that we reach via social media each month. And our event has been growing. Our first event, I think we had about 100 people. And this last event, we're up to 400. We're, growing each time. And, but it's more about participating. We want to hear from people. We want to hear how we can help.
Collaboration is the key.
Yeah, it's as easy as that. Not as easy to do in practice because we're all so busy. We're all in different places. You were saying earlier that you've been busy traveling this week. When you travel with work, that's tiring, and we're all doing it. No matter what you do in a business, in our industry, you're going to be traveling. So, yeah.
No, that's great. Awesome. Just to remark a couple comments that you mentioned, that communication is key. super important to be able to success in collaboration as well. I totally agree that if we as a whole communicate better and we are willing to participate more and share ideas and strategies, definitely we can become better as an industry as a whole. And I don't know if you notice it. I'm sorry, I don't know if you notice it. But cities are growing. Every city you go is just a lot of construction, new codes or regulations or building or landscaping or hardscape. How do you feel? Do you have any thoughts on how syncing the industry can help to be able to meet the needs of the growth in the cities, landscaping, hardscape, everything that it is involved in the construction?
Definitely. One of the things that, as a media company, we're always, the way we pay for our, what we do is through advertising. And one of the goals that I've always had is targeting more solutions that are going to help with urban development and help with, like, when I drive around the streets, I'm in a small town, but there's a lot of impermeable surfaces and trees trying to survive and not really thriving because we've cemented up everything. There's a lot that I've seen in Europe that, like, products that I was using 15 years ago in Europe that are only now coming on the scene in the US, and other companies that do like soil cells, underground soil cells for trees. So again, you can pave on top of the soil cells, but it gives the tree roots somewhere to grow. The tree is not limited by that, dig a hole 3 times the diameter in a city street, and that's as big as the tree's going to get, and then it's going to start dying. If you have just stone around it or concrete, again, like certain things like soil cells, that the more we talk about these, and we actually have a project in our next issue about these, that can give us the canopy to keep our cities from getting so hot. Because that's the problem with development, is it's like a passive heat sink, and it's getting hotter. So cities are getting hotter, the soils are getting drier, the trees are dying because they're not getting water or oxygen, or they don't have enough soil. So there are a lot of things. In fact, this is one of the main reasons we need to connect all the sectors, because it's stormwater solutions with civil engineering, with landscape architecture, with construction, with horticulture that can solve these. But it can only happen if we're all talking to each other and using these products that, maybe, and I guess in the news this week is tariffs and everything. So that does worry me that, like, if there's innovative construction techniques in Europe, then we might be held back and using those kind of innovative products. But I also know that there's inventors that we've had at our show that are doing living retaining wall structures, like Mark Woolbright, and there's people like Dirt Locker doing innovative solutions that are here in the US. So, it's not all overseas, but we have really unique solutions, and it's about putting them together. But you have to know about construction and horticulture. You can't just know about one or the other for some of these solutions. So again, this is where the collaboration comes in, and where it's really important. Imagine if you could, instead of building a concrete wall 50 feet high in a city, a hilly city, let's pick Atlanta because Atlanta's really hilly. If you had to build a retaining wall because of a bypass or an overpass, instead of concrete, if you could do that in plants, and it as civil engineer tested, it's as strong as concrete, why wouldn't you do that? Those solutions exist today, and they're as strong as concrete walls.
Helps the environment, and it's just better overall. There is one practice that, and I'm sorry for my ignorance, but it is where on the roof of the buildings they put plants. It's nothing but just green to keep the buildings cooler. That's correct?
Well, it does a few things. So that actually helps, like stormwater helps the plants grow. So it actually uses some of the water that a roof captures, but it's also better insulation. It's also good for pollinators, and it's good for the environment. So there's multiple reasons. And I love that you brought that up because
I love that. The first time I saw that thing, I was in New York like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 8 years ago when I saw it, and it was like, what? It's impressive.
My house in Scotland has a green roof, and my landscape business in Scotland had a green roof too.
Awesome.
And we use sedum because of the building regulations. We looked at using turf, but then turf needs more soil than sedum. And then the load is a lot higher, especially when you stack rain and water and snow on top of that. And it doesn't matter, but we had a limit on how high we could build. So then it was making our ceilings low. So we decided to build it with sedum. And what's cool about a sedum roof is that you don't need as much soil, and that every different season, it was a different color. So it would go yellow, and then in the fall it was red, and in the summer it was green, and the roof of our house changed colors. It was beautiful. Oh. And so since we did that, like my husband and I did that for our house, then I would do it a lot for landscape clients. Like they would have a shed in their backyard. To pretty it up, we would build like a roof structure, a beefier roof structure, and lay sedum on top. And then if they're looking like from the second story down on their yard, the shed was almost invisible. They would see the sedum roof instead of seeing a shed roof. And yeah, I love green roofs.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. And why you think, Angelique, that those practices are not yet here in the US? I mean, I know in big cities probably they are, but like it's not like a normal practice. Everyone just go through the normal concrete and that's it.
It's funny because I learned about I've known about green roofs for many, because we built with our house about it's probably 15 years ago with a green roof. So I've known about those for a while, but there's products in the US that I learned about like 4 years ago at an ASLA conference. And for me, I thought it was mind-blowing how it can change our hardscaping and how we do things here in the US. And as a test, I would say to people, meet landscape architects or design and build business owners. And I was like, did you know that this existed? And I've not run into many people that know about a lot of these products. And so this is a judge because I'm trying to test. It's like hypotheses and stuff. But I feel like the States is so large and there's so many things going on. It's hard to find a central place for this information because, and one of the inventors, so Mark, I mentioned him earlier, he's an inventor of a retaining wall, a living retaining wall product. He got his inspiration from Europe 30 years ago and he's been building them locally. But he said landscape architects always loved his products. But when it came to the time for construction, the construction company would go, ooh, I don't know how to build with plants. And that doesn't seem right. And there was also not a comparative product to price compare and get 3 bids. And often you'll need 3 bids depending on the type of contract. And he said, so everybody loved it, but it would just fall through the cracks and never get used. And he says, so I'm glad that SYNKD came along because it's kind of, people that are interested in horticulture and hardscaping, and he gets a bit more interest from our audience. He was at our event recently. So,
that's good.
I hope that we can, instead of just being a media company, I hope that we can be a source, a resource. So like Mizraim, if you know somebody at the greenery or wherever you're working or doing stuff, or maybe it's a client or whatever that you're talking to and you want to know about something that you think we can help with, I want you to call me. And I can go, oh yeah, I interviewed somebody like that. Here's a video or I'll introduce you to somebody who can help. In fact, some good friends of mine live in North Carolina and all they do is install green roofs all over the Eastern Shoreboard. Seaboard.
Seaboard.
Yeah, whatever. So, if you're interested, and I'm sure they would love to come and give a lunch and learn or visit with you guys and talk about the projects they do, because they're amazing. So
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and they're close, not far from you. So I want us to be a connector, a community of people that are looking for things that are new and different and innovative and sustainable. So we're not going to appeal to everybody in the industry, because some people just won't ever have time to do that, to think of different things. But I want those people that do want unique solutions and to know that we're here and that we want to help. So
people that are open to new ideas, new strategies, new ways. That's great. And I feel that it is important to have people like you. I was able to meet Joel Norop, the CEO of Diblon.
Yeah, awesome.
A couple of weeks ago, we have a conversation, and he's on a different side, different angle of the industry, more the technology, AI. But we get it in there to be able to be more competitive, have a better presence on the field, be more sufficient. We need to start using different things. We cannot expect better results or different results if we just keep using the same old ways. That's a new, in my opinion, that's the direction everyone should start going. Just start trying new things and just change the ways. I mean, maybe 50 years ago, doing X thing maybe works, but now it's just different. It's just different.
Well, and what I love about Diblon with Joel is that, he's changing the industry so that like the client gets that instant quote, it's like Amazoning your business, a service business, which, I mean, who would ever have time to be on the phone as soon as somebody wanted a quote and give them a quote instantly? It's such a game-changing technology that he has, and that there's other companies doing similar things in different parts of the industry, and it's really exciting.
It's trying to be ahead of the curve. I think if the people that really start going ahead of the curve is going to be able to be more successful, in the next 5-10 years. Who knows? Oh, that's great. Awesome. Angelique, before we wrap up, any advice that you want to give to the younger generation that are entering any area of the industry, landscaping, hardscape, any area, any advice would you experience that can you give to our listeners?
I would say don't take anything for granted. Don't, yes, learn from people with more experience, but also try to step back and look at better ways of doing things, because I think the younger generation are more tech savvy, and they're gonna do things in their own way. And I think that's great. Don't let people hold you back, but also still there's still a lot to learn from all levels in the industry. So don't forget that too. Older gray haired people.
Wise words, definitely. Wise words. Well, Angelique, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, and your background with us today. I really have a good time talking to you again and be able to having you here in the Green Talk.
Thanks, Mizraim. And I interviewed you on one of my podcasts, so the listeners can find out a little bit more about you on mine too. So
yeah, sure.
But I would like to say, if anybody is not getting the publication or they're not getting our emails, please feel free to reach out to us at SYNKD.io on our website, and we'll get you added to the list. Thanks for having me on, Mizraim. This was fun and great to see you again.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in the Green Talk podcast, and I will see you all until next time. Thank you, Angelique.
Thank you.